Hi guys, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about Skyward by Brandon Sanderson. I'm going to give you a spoiler-free synopsis, and then we'll go into spoilers for the whole series. Spoiler-free, it's about a young girl who lives on a planet that is constantly bombarded by aliens, and the humans of the planet who have to live underground in order to not die create like a space force to fight the aliens, called the DDF. And Spencer, the main character, wants to become a pilot and fight the aliens. But she can't because of the actions of her father. So, let's get into some spoilers. Book 1 is actually the very first Brandon Sanderson book that I ever read. It was so good. I loved just about everything about the book. I loved Spencer's attitude in book 1. I loved Spencer's remarks, her off-the-wall comments, her trying to learn how to fit in. I liked her and Jurgen's headbutting against each other. I think they really brought out the best in each other. Jurgen helped Spencer learn to calm down. Spencer taught Jurgen to let loose. Something that I think is missing in the last book. But we'll get into that. Book 1 is a great book. I loved Spencer's resourcefulness in fixing M-Bot. I loved M-Bot's whole personality. I loved Doomslug. Not going to lie, I totally thought that M-Bot's name stood for Murder Bot, not Mushroom Bot. Just because of who Spencer is. I understand now, after reading the whole series, why his name is Mushroom Bot. It's a way for M-Bot to have his own personality and think for himself. But I did totally think the whole series, until it was mentioned again, that he was Murder Bot just because of who Spencer is, and also as a nod to the Murder Bot series. I thought that the stakes in this book were perfect. They weren't over the top, but yet they were engaging. I do feel like this book doesn't really connect to the rest of the series that well. This book does kind of feel like a prequel, and then all of the other books, I don't have Defiant. I read it from the library, but all the other books fit into each other very well. Even the bad guys that get fought in Defiant are introduced in Starsight. Skyward is a lot like Mistborn. Okay, that's better. I did feel like this book is a lot like Mistborn Final Empire, where it's self-contained, and then books 2 and 3 are more like a duology, except this one is 3 books and 3 novellas. But this is a great standalone book, and it does feature the characters from this book and the rest of the series. But speaking of the rest of the series, let's go on to Skyward. Let's go on to Starsight. Okay, if Cytonic... This book I liked. I liked the beginning of this book a lot. I liked how Spencer learned from book 1 and went to Jurgen and was like, hey, I have an idea. Is this a good idea? One thing I don't necessarily like about this series is it feels like the first 3 books, Skyward, Starsight, and Cytonic, all 3 of them is Spencer joining up with a new group of people and learning about her past and fighting bad guys. And I feel like we got that done very well in book 1, and we got that done okay in book 2. We really didn't need that done again in book 3. I wish that maybe book 2 and 3 were condensed into one book. That way it would have, and then maybe another book in between Cytonic and Defiant with... Let me talk about what I like about Starsight. I liked introducing the new aliens. I liked learning all about the Krell. I liked learning about the other humans. I think that Braid was very nicely introduced. I liked Hisho, obviously. I liked M-Bot's more coming into himself and learning more about himself. And I love the fact that he's scared of himself. I mean, it's really good foreshadowing, and it's also just really sweet. I liked Emma a lot. Let's talk about Cytonic. Cytonic is very much the same as Starsight, only again, Spencer's in a new place with new people. I did really, really like Chet, though, in this book. I liked him. I liked him learning about who he was. Mbot's sacrifice at the end was so sad. I liked the Tanax and with Doomslug, how she hid and stuff. I thought that was really cool and interesting. I do wish, though, that we had more time with Skyward Flight before this book. Maybe there should have been like a book in between Starsight and Cytonic with Spencer back at home. I don't know how that would have worked. We would have had to end Starsight sooner. With Spencer back at home with Skyward Flight and just more of the team building, more of... I loved that group of people the best in Skyward. And then maybe if like Hisho and Alanic joined Skyward Flight like with Spencer, I think that would have been really cool. But it felt kind of like 2 solo missions back to back, and then the last book Spencer's trying to get back in with Skyward Flight, and it just felt kind of weird with Spencer being gone for so long and them kind of moving on without her. And especially with her losing all her memories in this book, like slowly losing her memories, I think having more time with Skyward Flight would have just been more bittersweet with her. I love the fact that she actually seriously considered leaving Skyward Flight and just staying in the nowhere. I think that's actually a lot of character growth. She went through a lot of character growth in this book. Let's talk about the novellas. These novellas were definitely needed to bridge the gap between Cytonic and Defiant. And they were good. I just wish that maybe these novellas were integrated into Starsight and Cytonic. Maybe that's what we needed. Instead of another whole book, maybe these should have just been like dual POVs with everything going on back home. Maybe that's what we needed. I don't know why, but these books kind of made me ship FM and Jorgen. I don't know why. I feel like they would have made such a good couple. In book 1, Spencer and Jorgen are definitely like the best to be together. But by the time these ones came around, I feel like FM is what Jorgen needs. But these were good. I definitely liked, which one was it? Evershore the best. Again, because I just liked the whole group that they were in Skyward Flight. I liked Jorgen's arc. I also really liked FM with the Tanax. I thought that was very well done. I liked seeing how they all interacted, learning what the Tanax are. I do wish that with, 4 books and 3 novellas, I do wish that we knew more about the Tanax, though. Yeah. Okay, let's talk about the last book. It felt very strange for Spencer to come back after having been gone for 2 whole books, and then expecting everything to be back to normal, especially now that like her boyfriend is in charge of like the entire world. Like I said, I wish if we had more time with Skyward Flight, things would have made a lot more sense. By the time that Defiant came out, by the time of Defiant, like in world time, it definitely does feel like they shouldn't have expected Spencer to just come back into Skyward Flight. I don't think that that's what they should have done. She is obviously a hero. She could have done her own thing, but them putting her back into Skyward Flight just did not make a lot of sense, especially because they already had, Sadie and Alanic join, and then it just, her place has been filled, her role has been filled, her whole team isn't even there anymore, Jorgen's gone, FM's gone. It just didn't make a lot of sense for them to keep pushing for the whole book for Spencer to keep trying to fit in, when she very obviously has outgrown that role. Which is a shame, because we only got her in that role for 1 book. But that being said, I loved all the stuff with Gran. I loved watching Gran's arc and her coming to herself. Her last stand was just epic. I do wish, though, that by the time of the last book, we saw more of Spencer's mom. In Skyward, it makes sense that, like, we don't see her mom because she's not home, like, the whole book. Books 2 and 3, it also kind of makes sense because, like, she's not even on the planet anymore. But in the novellas and in the last book, I definitely think that her mom should have came up at least once. Especially now that she's back from the nowhere. Like, did her mom die and I just missed that? I don't know. Especially with her mom actually caring about her in book 1, I feel like it doesn't make sense for her not to even, like, really be mentioned at all. I think they say in passing, like, that she's just more used to being down there or feels more comfortable down there or whatever. But it doesn't really make a lot of sense, especially in book 1 when it says over and over again about how poor they are and how they don't have any money and stuff because of what happened with Spencer's dad. Like I said before, I don't know how I feel about the 2 fights, the emotional fight with Braid and then the physical fight against the Delvers. Neither of those really harken back to book 1. Those both were introduced in Starsight. And so it kind of feels like Starsight and On is a series and, like, Skyward is its own little thing. Which is a shame because Skyward is the best book out of all of them. The emotional fight with Braid, though, was very good. I liked that. I don't know how I feel about Braid being the one that killed Winzik. I do think that was instrumental in, like, Spencer's arc of growing up and being like, hey, I don't need to really kill everyone that's in my way. Like, she's not that little kid anymore who feeds off blood and justice. She's grown up and she knows more about the world. I do think that it would have been better, though, if, and it would have harkened back into Skyward, if the last fight was, something happens with Braid, you know, but also Spencer is the one that gets the Krell to leave Detrius alone. I think that would have harkened back to Skyward because that is the enemy in Skyward, and it also would have not been as clean cut as the series ended, with Braid being the one that had gotten all of the Krell? That had gotten all of the bad guys in Skyward to follow her. I think it just would have been more impactful if Spencer had been the one to stop the attacks. Also, the fight with the Delvers, although it was foreshadowed and it was done pretty good, I don't really know how I feel about the Tynax being the ones to fix the Delvers or to stop the Delvers from attacking everyone. Just for the sake that in Cytonic, like, you saw how scared, like, Doomslug was of the Delvers. It just would have made a lot more sense if the Delvers, like, took accountability for their actions. The romance between Jorgen and Spencer was very good in book 1. Book 2 and 3 was, you saw very little of it, but it was still okay. In the novellas, though, I was totally rooting for FM and Jorgen. Jorgen has grown up a little bit, being what Spencer taught him, that, you know, he needs to let loose a little bit. And FM actually understands what it's like to rule and to have all that responsibility put on you. Now, yeah, Spencer's dealing with, like, the responsibility and stuff in Defiant, but she doesn't truly understand what it's like for Jorgen. I don't think until the end. So I don't know. I don't know how I really feel about the romance in Defiant. It could have just been because Brandon Sanderson wrote it instead of in these books when I'm pretty sure Jancy wrote the romance parts. Because the romance was just a lot more believable in here. Besides book 1, than in Defiant. I was hoping for more of like a closure to them. I was hoping that they would reconcile and be like, hey, we both went through a lot apart. Maybe they just needed a break. Maybe that's all that they needed. And then they could have learned who they were and then came back together. Maybe that's all I need. I don't know. I'm excited to see what the next series brings in this world. I am excited to see more FM and Rig because I did not get enough of them in the series. I'm excited to see more Kimmerlin. I'm excited to see more of Alanic and Amphi. I'm just excited to see more of the Detrius crew. I don't know how I feel about the Tanax now, like, being in control of everything. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. It's definitely interesting. This video is getting kind of long, so I'm going to end it here. But yeah, those are my spoilery thoughts on this series. Tell me what yours are down below.